story you do is awesome. Jeff was saying, even just somebody being able to call and talk to somebody on the phone and knowing that if necessary somebody can come, that's a huge relief to people about it. Thank you. And this summer I had I was injured and messed up incident, and OHSTAR support cards and everything. It's really meant a lot to me, so thank you for that. You guys have my back really good. So I'm just going to go through, try to make some notes, starting with when I get the phone call. I've done it so many times, it's kind of just a script, and then when I get there, before I go up, and then as I'm coming to the cat, hopefully getting the cat in the bag, usually. So if people call me up, it's kind of fun every morning when the phone will ring and you're talking to whoever. But first thing I ask is, how long has the cat been up there? I generally tell people I prefer to give the cat at least 24 hours in the tree to see if it'll come down on the phone. A lot of times the cat will do that, come down on the phone, or a neighbor kid will climb up there and grab it if it's not too big. I want to know, what's the cat's demeanor like? Is it more friendly? Is it a barn cat, a feral cat? Just so I have some idea ahead of time what I might be dealing with. I tell people most cats are cool, they're happy to see me, it's usually goes really well, but I like to tell people on the phone that there's always a chance a cat could jump or fall. It does happen. I've seen cats fall from over 100 feet, they hit the ground, cat takes off running, check back later, cat's fine. I took the cat to the vet, they can't believe it, but the cat's fine. I did have one cat that fell from I think about 70 feet onto cement. It had a ruptured lung. It took off running and we couldn't find it, but it was on the back porch the next morning. Made a full recovery. On the phone I just kind of try to sympathize with them. I know it's a stressful situation. I've got 2 cats at home. I know how precious they are. I like to reassure people that cats are super tough. I've seen cats that have been up in the tree over a week, close to 2 weeks. I've seen some pretty skinny cats in trees, but somehow they manage. Dehydration is the biggest concern. I'm not a veterinarian, but that's the general consensus as best I can gather. I don't know if cats are licking dew in the morning or what they're doing, but they're super tough. So you can tell people that, try to help them not worry as much. I ask people, usually it's their cat, but sometimes it's not their cat. If it's not their cat, I recommend people to check on the Nextdoor app. A lot of times these days it's the most common place where somebody will post about a missing cat. But you can go knock on the neighbors' doors around, see if anybody knows whose cat it is, check for flyers. And then the other thing I ask is the cat meowing or crying? Usually it's a good sign if the cat's meowing and kind of crying out for help. I take that as a good sign. Then when I get there, I always like to know what's the cat's name, how do you call to the cat? Some people, whatever it is, I like to know that. Try to go with that. I talk to the cat, I meow, I try to mimic the cat's meows and kind of give it the sad, I feel for you meows and stuff. Don't know that it helps, but that's what I do. I like to know how old the cat is. I find that younger cats, especially kittens, are usually super easy to deal with. And just in my personal experience, long hair cats I'm a little more wary of. I don't know, it's just my theory that they generally have a little, not as trusting, but other things I've noticed, tuxedo cats, Bombay cats, usually super sweet and trusting, not a problem. I'm always happy to see a black cat or a tuxedo cat. In my experience, Siamese cats can be less trusting. My 2 cats, sisters, they have a bit of Siamese, and they're very trusting of the people they know, but they don't deal with strangers as well. So just some things to think about. I always, if possible, put away the dogs. If there's screaming kids and stuff, it's best to have a calm, quiet. If the neighbor's running the weed whacker or whatever, if possible, you can have a nice, quiet environment. So when you get there, you have to assess the tree. This goes for tree work too. You do a full walk around the tree. The first number one thing you're looking for is power lines. You don't want to be anywhere near them. In tree work, it's 10 feet. You have to stay away. Any conductor, house lines, phone lines, cable lines, they can all be conductive. And sometimes there's one where you wouldn't expect it in a backyard, and high voltage can be just a little 1/8-inch wire. So you have to take a good look around. But then, you check, you look around the base of the tree. You don't want to see conchs or mushrooms growing on the tree. It is a sign of internal decay, and you have to reassess your plan if you see that. If you see fresh cracks in the ground, it's not very common, but you will see it. You guys probably won't, but if you look at hundreds of trees, occasionally you'll see that there's fresh cracks in the ground, and in the wind you can actually see the cracks moving, the tree's heaving, and it is at risk of falling over. I noticed in that PDF it mentioned lichen and moss on the tree maybe being a sign of poor health, but I think in the Pacific Northwest pretty much every tree is going to have lichen. That doesn't mean anything to me. Dog poop, it's good to check dog poop. You don't want your gear getting dog poop. Sometimes the yard's just covered in dog poop and you have to deal with it, but if possible, take a look, and if you can, get it out of the way before you go up. And I noticed in the PDF it talks about your branch selection. Obviously the bigger the branch, the better. But to me, more importantly than necessarily the size of the branch is how close you get your rope to the trunk. The way branches grow, they're actually embedded into the trunk. So if your rope is out here, it's got leverage, which you don't want. If it's right at the trunk, there's no leverage, and it's just like pulling down on a solid object. You're not going to break it. I've had my rope over what I thought was a big branch. When I get up there, it was actually over a tiny little branch right above it, but right at the trunk, they're super strong. So take that into consideration. If it, you want your rope right at the trunk, depending on the branch, I wouldn't go any more than 6 inches a foot out on the branch. So that's tree risk assessment of the basics. Sometimes if the tree that the cat is in is not great, a lot of times there's a tree next to it, close enough that, and even if the tree the cat is in is good, a lot of times I'll use the neighbor tree because I can get my rope high, I'll go up that tree and be away from the cat so I'm not scaring it. And if I can come to the cat from above, that's ideal because it'll keep the cat from going up, which you don't want. The lower the better. So that's a good thing to keep in mind is the neighbor tree. If it's an option, a lot of times it's a good option. So then before I go up, like I said, I'm talking to the cat now. I encourage the owner to talk to the cat, try to calm the cat. Before I go up, I let everybody know to stay clear of the tree, be out from under the canopy of the tree. A lot of times when you're going up, there'll be dead wood, and sometimes you just have to touch a dead branch and it'll fall. A lot of times when you're going up, sometimes it's better just to break stuff off in a controlled manner rather than worrying about coming down and breaking something and having it fall on somebody. A lot of times, depending on what they tell me about the cat, if it's more of a skittish cat, I carry a big tarp in my car. And like if there's only one person on site, I carry extra throw line, and I'll rig up the tarp with throw lines to a fence, a tree here, whatever you can. And if you can get the tarp as high as you can and as taut as possible, it doesn't come into play very often, but every now and then the tarp has been a lifesaver. I don't know if it's maybe a liability issue for you guys, but if there are folks there, so if you want to get a blanket or whatever, I'll tell them, stay clear, but if it starts to go weird, then I'll have you come under with a blanket when it feels secure. But there's been a few times where get a hold of a cat, the cat's fighting or biting me, and I'm okay, I'm going to stop the cat, call the fireman's rescue. It's a good option, sometimes it's necessary. I don't carry my own treats. Sometimes if the cat people have their treats, I'll put a few in my pocket. But the one thing that I do every time is use the fecal away spray. I notice there's some in your kit over there, and I just spray it on my glove and I'll put a little bit. It's a synthetic pheromone. It's supposed to mimic a mom cat scent to calm cats. And it's good if you have 2 cats in the household to help them get along. I think it works good. So also, before I go up, I tell the people again, you know, there's a chance a cat could jump or fall. I like people to know that, so that because it does happen occasionally. I tried to do the math. I think it's like maybe 10, 15% at the most. I've had that cats jump or fall. But I like people to know that it is a possibility. The other thing, before I go up, if you can clear, you know, potted plants, a bicycle, whatever it is, if you can move stuff out of the area where the cat might fall, that's good, because you want them landing on duff if possible. The cat, they're evolved to take a fall somehow, so if they can hit the ground instead of landing on some metal or whatever, it's good. So yeah, then so right, I'm going to go up, just make clear. I'm going up, you want to be as slow and smooth as possible. Just quiet, calm. Getting up the tree takes a lot of energy. Being hard, so a lot of times it's good just to stop, take a break, catch your breath, let your heartbeat go down a little bit. It's a good time to make eye contact with the cat. I've got 3 main cat body language things that I'll do as I'm going up. I definitely like to have the cat know that I'm coming. If it's looking away or whatever, I'll make some noise so that it sees me from a distance coming up. I don't like to surprise the cat, obviously. So yeah, the 3 cat body languages: happy scratching on the trunk, you know, you see cats scratching, and then bunting, kind of that, and the slow blinking. Cats, it's like a happy, and they'll do it. If they do it back to you, it's great. Good sign. So that's body language. You know, obviously, calm voice. I've heard that they respond well to a deep, calm. So like your best Barry White impression. And I just kind of sympathize with the cat. You know, I know this is scary. Try to reassure the cat. A woman that I know that does it, she says that she tries to be the adult, the calm one in the situation. You know, it's going to be okay. And then when I do get close to the cat, you know, if I have some treats, I'll try to let them get a whiff of that so they remember treats, and offer my hand. And if it's going well, I'll offer the cat my face. Just kind of a vulnerable, you know, I'm not here to attack you kind of thing. And then I read this book on, it was a gentleman, I think I have it at home, I'll send you the title of the book, but I don't know what the proper term is, but somebody that can talk to animals. And his theory was that animals think visually. So if you can visualize to the cat or the other whatever animal it is, how, you know, things are going to go smoothly, and they give you a hug and get you down to your people and inside and warm. That's what I read. So that, you know, if you remember it, you can kind of try to visualize with the cat, think to the cat. So yeah, that's my approach. And then if it goes well, it's great if you can give the cat some head scratches. I like, if possible, I'll give some scratches, and at that point you want to get a good grip on the cat's scruff of their neck. You know, from what I'm told, it's their natural instinct to, if you get a hold of their scruff, they just kind of relax. It's like when a mom cat picks up a kitten, they grab it by the scruff, and the cat just relaxes, and the mom carries them to safety or whatever. So you get a good grip on their, just iron grip, And you know, if you can spend a minute with the cat, give it a hug or whatever, and then whenever you're comfortable, I like to be lanyarded in a solid position, get that just a really good grip on the cat's scruff. And my cat bag, this is just an old t-shirt. I cut the sleeves off and sewed those closed, and I sewed the glove into the neck. But you guys have one of these too. But it's just generally works great. You got the cat by the scruff, and you just pull the cat in the bag. Most cats relax, and it's not a problem. I always have to use my teeth to get myself in there, but so then I've got the cat in the bag. At that point, I come down to the ground. I hand the people the cat in the bag, and I tell them, you know, take the cat inside in the bag. Don't let it out of the bag until it's in the house. And one little tip: I don't put that second glove away until I get this bag back, because I have left it places and it's not fun. And some other little things that occurred to me after making that list. The control pole, you guys use that? You have one?
We have it in the trailer if we need it, yeah.
I take it up with me every time. I don't like to use it.
Yours is
Matt
nice.
doesn't like it, but with an uncooperative cat, it's been pretty successful for me. Usually, if I do have to use it, the cat doesn't usually react to the loop much. They don't. Some cats are angry and fierce, and they'll bite and scratch at it and get away from it. But most cats, they don't mind. You kind of can just get it around their head, and then sometimes you have to wait, and sometimes you have to pull on it a little bit until they put a leg through, so that it's not just their neck. Once you've got them in there, you got to pull it really tight. First few times I had one come off and wiggle out. So you got to pull it tight. Sometimes, depending on how it's acting, I'll get it into the bag from the pole, but that can be tricky. Usually I'll just come down with the cat on the pole. Sometimes they're screaming and howling. Sometimes they just are resigned. It just depends on the cat. But I recommend checking out Canopy Cat Rescue. They're up in Seattle area. Tom and Sean. They've been featured on Animal Planet. They're huge on Facebook, good on Instagram. And they do thousands of cat rescues a year just between the two of them. They recently don't do tree work anymore. They just do cats and trees. I used to do a lot of calls in Southwest Washington for them. They're too far, but now they're doing most of those themselves. So it's great for them. But yeah, they have videos and stuff on their probably YouTube and Facebook. They have some great videos of their experiences and everything. So it's good to check it out. Before you leave, you know, do a walk around the tree. Make sure you got all your gear. I leave my car keys on top of my car. I've had to spend some time looking for my car keys. It was not good. I have a chip scanner. I don't know if you guys have a chip scanner, but it is nice to have sometimes for hand cats. It works great, and it's really fun to call. You get the people's information, and they call you back, and you're like, I know the cat. But another thing, you want to have a plan in place. If something were to go wrong, you have to call 911. You want to know the address of where you are. You don't want to be trying to figure that out. We practice rescues for tree work, and you designate, will you call 911 please? They'll call 911. Would you please go out to the street and meet the ambulance and grab them? So just have some basic idea of what you're going to do if something goes wrong. In my car I carry a basic first aid kit. It doesn't happen too often. It happened a little bit more often when I first started doing it, but you will get bitten occasionally. It's best to flush that out as soon as possible with alcohol. Cat scratch fever is a real thing, and it can be very serious, deadly, I think, or you can lose a limb. The first time I got bit, pretty wary of and got antibiotics and stuff. I don't like taking antibiotics. So I don't do that anymore. The 5 or 6 times I've had serious bites, it's been okay, but cat scratch fever is a real thing. The other important thing, sometimes if things aren't going well and the cat's trying to get away from you, sometimes it's better just to back off, give up, come back the next day. I've had to go back the next day a few times, and usually the second day has been successful. So it's always an option. We don't want to force the cat to jump or fall if at all possible. A couple times I have had to leave a cat in the tree. It's nice if you can leave some food for it. And I know Jeff left some too in the tree for the cat. I don't know if the cat. I don't think the cat got to it, but it's a good thing to do. Like I said, I've had 10 or 15% of cats jump or fall. I had one time I got into the tree and I was pretty far away from the cat, but as soon as he saw me in the tree, he just jumped. The cat was fine, but sometimes cats are unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. In December, I had a cat. I went to the tippy top of a dun fir, which is sometimes common. They'll just keep going up as you come up, and sometimes you end up at the tippy top of the dun fir. It's fine. It just takes longer. But this cat was pretty skittish. It didn't want it. It was batting at me. And these days, if a cat's batting at me or hissing, I'll use the pole. I don't want to fight the cat. But this cat, I used the pole. I got it on the pole. It somehow wriggled free, and it went down. Actually, it wriggled free and fell and landed on another branch a little bit below, which sometimes they'll fall and catch themselves. But I made the mistake of I should have backed off and come back another day or just let the cat do what it was going to do. But I went to get it again with the pole, and it jumped. And we were super high in the tree, so I couldn't see what happened, but I heard it hit the ground, and then I'm coming down, and I hear this loud explosion. Didn't know what it was at first. It scared the crap out of me. Turns out this was kind of rural, up towards Mount Hood, kind of a rougher family, but the gentleman of the family had come outside and shot the cat with a gun, which maybe was the right thing to do. I don't know. I don't know what condition the cat was in. Maybe it was the right thing to do, but I really wish he would have said, "Hey, I'm going to shoot this cat," and I would have said, "Give me a second. I'll take it to the vet. I'll pay for it, whatever." But this guy shot the cat. The cat was dead. It really messed me up for a while. But that's one cat out of 300. It's like 0.33% for me. Hopefully, I'll keep doing more, and that percentage will go down. But I wanted to share that with you because it is a reality. It does happen. It's kind of changed how I look at it and feel about it. I'm more willing these days to let some other folks do it. If you answer in phones, Chris Spencer, he's a new guy on the list. He's really excited about doing it, and he takes his daughter with him. And he's really so. I'll pass him off to him more these days, and I'm happy just to go to the extreme ones where last resort or whatever. So yeah, that's mostly it. Most of them are cool. It's super fun to be able to help out. People are so happy. But yeah, you guys have questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
When it was really frozen, like when we had to go down there not too long ago.
Yeah.
And limbs are dropping, just trees are falling over, whatever. I think maybe you guys went out on a call or were going.
Right
maybe
before
you and
that,
Kaylin.
that was the one where we just left some food for it.
Like after a big winter event like that, like is there like the limbs look like they might be fine, but how are you gonna know they're not damaged by the cold or the
Yeah, it's a good question. With that too, since that storm, there's just tons and tons of broken hangers. That's another thing you have to look for in the trees. Call them widow makers. That's part of your risk assessment. You're looking for broken branches. You're looking for wasp nests and things like that. But really with trees, that's kind of part of the deal. I've worked on a giant white oak, just a gorgeous tree, and we worked on it, doing some heavy rigging out of it, and then a month later the whole tree is tipped over. It's part of the game with trees. You can never be 100% sure about a tree, because you don't know. The important thing is your tie-in. If it's at the trunk, you don't have to worry as much about is this a weak branch. But if you're out here and it's a weak branch, you could break it. But yeah, it's more of a comfortability thing. I get to be in trees every day, so I have a little more experience. It'll be harder for you guys, but that's where your judgment comes. If you have any question, your life is obviously not worth trying to get a cat out of the tree. So it's just something that you have to appreciate.
With those tall trees, you were talking about being at the tippy top.
Yeah.
How do you get above your ankle point?
So my climbing system is pretty much different than you guys is. You guys are working on a double moving rope system. This is a single line setup, so I can be base tied, and the cool thing is I can be through several different branches. I don't have to isolate. But with my system, I can go up, and usually if it's a tall tree, I'll go up on that, and then I've got a second system, second rope that's totally separate that I'll tail up with me. And when I get to the top of my anchor point, then I take that second system, and I'll just advance one branch by one branch. I'm always tied in, so I'm alternating between my lanyard and my system. So put my system on, climb up to it, put my lanyard on, take my system off, and just advance one by one, but always being tied in. So, that's something, not an option for you guys now, but it might be something to look into where you have, I call it the double lanyard system. Basically, my lanyard has clip here, and then the other side also there's a second prissing, so it's a double lanyard. You can just alternate between it and go up. That's how I do it. It's not really an option for you guys.